Hello, I have a secret. I like to speed read. It's not a competition or anything like that. What it means is I tend to read books in a certain style, certain way, that allows me to read the article, book, magazine, in a faster rate than a normal person would read. A normal person will read from 150 to 250 words a minute. I sort of read at around 450 to 500 words a minute. Now, if you've ever tried to read very fast yourself, as a normal reader, you'll find that it's very difficult to move the eye as many times as needed, and to get the brain to follow it all and control yourself. And this is where speed reading techniques come in. A normal reader will read every individual word on a page. That means if you're reading a book, for instance, you're going to be moving your eye 8 to 10 times per line. If you're reading something larger like a newspaper, you might be moving your eye multiple times more than that, depending on the size of the article. A speed reader will effectively make jumps with their eye. So we don't read individual words. We try to position our eye. For me, myself, my technique is I read 3 words at a time. I'm effectively using my side vision, peripheral vision, to read 3 words in one go. The brain's quite capable of looking at 3 words because it understands English and it understands English sentences. So if I'm reading something in English, it's quite easy to read 3 words at a time, and the brain will just decipher what the information is. It's not something that I have to do manually. The brain just does it. It understands the patterns. So when I'm reading, I tend to read with a pointing object. In this case, a chopstick. I've used pencils, pens, chopsticks, pretty much anything that's relatively small tipped on the end, something where I can focus my eye. I don't look directly at the point. I sort of have this below a word, so then I look just above where my stick is pointing. I'll be giving demonstrations on what speed reading and normal reading are, so that you can see the differences, and then you can decide for yourself if you fancy trying speed reading. I heartily recommend it. It was great fun when I first started. I haven't read so much lately because, wife, kids sort of distracted me a lot, but I'm getting back into it myself, and I've decided to make myself a little website. I've found quite a lot of public domain books that I can read on there, a lot of classics. I'll show you that a bit later, and then you can see how website speed reading and speed reading manually with a book differs, because they are different. So let's have a look at what normal reading is first. Okay, so let's imagine how a normal person would read a book. You start at the top, and then you move your eyes each word until you've read effectively a line, then move on to the next line. Blah-de-blah. Everyone always does this. It's how we're always taught. Speed reading does it in a slightly different way. We reduce the amount of eye movement that we do, which effectively allows you to read quicker. To give an explanation of that, let's say if I come to the word sum. Now, if I'm just looking at the word sum, without moving my eyes, I can see to the left of the word sum, we've got a word theirs. If I look to the right of the word sum, I've got a word left. So in my brain, I effectively read there's some left. So I look at sum, but I read there's some left. In the cool room and weave. Got mutton pies with a choice of tracklement. So what I've done is I've effectively removed eye movement. There's supposed to be a limit on how many times we can move our eyes per second. Tends to be around about 8 times. 8 times where we can focus on an individual word. By using the peripheral vision, we're effectively only moving our eyes maybe 3 times per line, and it sort of gives you extra thinking time, if you understand how I mean. Now, this is only one form of speed reading. There are others. There are many others, in fact. One of the popular ones is you effectively just follow the pointing stick and you don't look at the word above it in any particular place. So you're scanning. You allow your eyes just to roll effectively over each individual line. I always found it difficult to get on with this, but it does actually work. So you're not really stopping at each word. Your eyes never stop moving. They just move. They glide from left to right. There's another form of this where you effectively skim one way and then you skim backwards. Yes, that's right. You read half of it backwards. Then you skim forwards and skim backwards. And what's supposed to happen here is your brain is supposed to put everything sort of into order. Obviously, it doesn't work quite like that. So instead of getting the whole stage of a sentence, in your mind, you put together a construct of it, if you like. It works. There are many people that will read like that. There's another form where you might stick on the word always, then you scan right, and what you've actually done is read 5 lines all in one go. Obviously, you're not reading the sentence. What you're actually doing there is you're scanning for nuggets of information. You're going to see things. Most sentences are actually made up of what we think is pointless words. You don't need things like in the, some, we've. You can sort of get away with a lot of the words. What you're really after at that point is trying to get a general feeling of the role of the story or role of the sentence. It's very difficult to do. Tends to be more used for things like scientific papers when you're just after specific information. You don't need to read the whole sentences to get the context. And that is effectively speed reading. Quite a simple process, and many famous people have done this. There are actually quite a few American presidents that has been speed reading. I believe that Franklin D. Roosevelt was one particular person. He used to read about 1,000 words a minute, which would be 4 times faster than an average person. When you read normally, you will only read 150 to 250 words a minute. Using my technique of every 3 words, you will tend to get to about 450 to 500 words a minute quite easily, where you keep the context and you keep the understanding. And there we go. Okay, speed reading on a website, done in a slightly different way. Because we don't have a pointing object, we don't get large bodies of text that we scan in the same way. We tend to replace one word with another on screen. Here's an example. Okay, so this demonstration is running at around 150 words a minute, which is like a slow normal reader. We're able to make sense of the words that we're seeing. Not too difficult. It's quite a simple way of doing it, actually. Now, if I come back, we can go to 300 words a minute. Okay, it gets a bit more complicated. It's hard to actually distinguish between one word and the next. I know they're changing, but because you just get one word straight on top of the other, you can't necessarily differentiate when it's changed so fast. This is running at about 294 words a minute. A little bit difficult. We can do something else. We can, instead of trying to replace the word so fast, we increase how many words we show on the screen at the same time. So instead of doing one word over each other word, now we do 3 words. Because there's 3 words, they appear for effectively a longer period of time than one word to get the same words per minute. There we go. So you notice that these words are actually on screen for a lot longer, 3 times as long in fact, because there's 3 words instead of 1. So we can just look at the middle of the word and then use the peripheral vision to look on the outside. So we're not moving our eye, we just try to effectively focus on one point of the screen and then allow our eyes to make out what's going on. It works quite well. We can also add a fade version to it. Now, by putting a fade out and fade in of the words, it sort of allows the brain to distinguish when the words have really changed a bit more easy. Here's an example. Because a word is fading out and fading in, can you see how that actually works a little bit better? You can see that there's a defined point when the words are changing, and your brain recognizes it. It gives it more chance to disseminate the information that you're reading. There we go, let's have a look at that. So that's given us 281 words a minute. Felt quite comfortable. Instead of doing that like that, let's have a little example of a real book. Let's try Alice in Wonderland, chapter 1. Now, the way that I'm doing the screen at the moment, I've enlarged it a lot. I've done this so that you can actually see the words on your screen if you're actually watching this video on your mobile phone. Normally, I wouldn't have the words this big. If I bring it down for a normal computer screen, you can't see that on your phone, can you? There we go. We're going to go bigger. We'll have fade text on it, and we're just going to play. Okay, so the way that I've made this little website itself, when you get a full stop, you tend to get a little bit of a pause. It helps the brain to realise you've come to the end of a sentence and another one starting. It's not a big delay. It's just a small delay. Just everything to help. That's the main thing. Now, while we're reading here, we can actually increase the words. So let's go to 4 words at a time. Notice how they appear on the page for just a little bit longer. If I go to 5 words, again it slows down again, but you're still getting the same amount of words per minute. Because at the moment I've got the text so large on a PC screen, it's very difficult to see the words on the outside. Normally I'd have it much smaller. It allows my peripheral vision to read all 5 words quite easily. But for our little demonstration, we're just going large. You can change the speed up. Let's go a bit quicker. Okay, now we've been running at 460 words a minute. Okay, so let's see. This is in effect going to be about 660 words a minute. Okay, are you able to keep up with that? I can just about keep up with that. If for me the writing was a bit smaller, it would be easier for me to actually read. Okay, let's have a look. 508 words a minute. If I bring the font down quite a bit, I can actually get faster with that. I'm not saying that my eyes don't move at all. Sometimes they move to what appears to be a slightly more important part of the 5 words that appear. I tend to avoid the smaller words if my eyes are refocusing. There we go. That goes like that. 639 words a minute. Now, if you remember that I said that a normal reader reads at 250 words a minute, okay, you're reading 2.5 times faster than a normal reader at that point. it's quite possible to do it. Doesn't really strain the eyes that much. Doesn't strain the brain that much either. However, if you ever decided that you don't really want to read it in that way, I have always given the option of looking at the full text. Some people just like to read naturally in any case. The website is designed for speed reading, specifically for myself. But if people want to read it like this, then why not? Once I get to the end of a chapter, I always get a read next chapter part, just go straight on to the next chapter, and then I can start off again. When you've read the whole thing in this position, you'll get a button that says read next chapter, so you can just go on to the next chapter. If you want, you can restart the chapter. You can move forward a few phrases, you can come back a few phrases, and it just continues like this. Play. Let's put the fade on. You can just mess around with it as I wish. And that is effectively speed reading online. I hope you like it. And that is speed reading on a computer and with a pointer. I'll obviously put a link underneath the video if you want to go and have a look at my website. You might do, you might not. I'm thinking of changing it a bit so that if you've got your own text that you want to read, you could effectively copy and paste it into that website and then speed read it yourself. I have something sort of working for my own testing purposes, but I haven't got it live at the moment. So, and then that is speed reading. So I hope you don't think it's a complete waste of time. It does make books flow better, more like a movie in your head. So I hope you enjoy it, and thank you for watching. Bye bye.